Wuthering Heights, which is Andrea Arnold's take on the classic novel. I mean, I think when people think of Wuthering Heights now, they think of so many previous adaptations. When you see this, you think of Andrew Cotting's film *This Filthy Earth*. You remember that?
I haven't seen it, so I won't be thinking of it.
An extraordinary film which started with a shot of a bull in a field and scattered seed and mud and rain and as the title says, filthy earth. What you have here is the USP of it is that Andrea Arnold, in her version, Heathcliff, rather than just being sort of maybe Romany gypsy, is cast as black, and therefore his otherness becomes the central idea. This is an idea which is deeply embedded within Wuthering Heights, and there are, people have talked about this idea for a very long time, and it's a perfectly legitimate way of doing it. And what she does is she takes the story to some extent right out onto the woods, despite the fact that you'd expect that when you're doing Wuthering Heights, if you're out there in Heights, you'd shoot it in widescreen. Of course, but what Andrea Arnold seems to have a thing for is 4:3, square, the square frame, and everything is up close and very personal, very, very handheld. I mean, watching the film, you do feel like you're standing out in a wet, cold, rainy, windy, moor during the course of the movie, and actually at the end of it, you feel like what you need to do is to wrap yourself in a blanket, because that is something that I say that as a praise for it, because it really does have that earthy, elemental quality.
Is she so cold?
She's hold let me in. Although, of course, actually,
at your window,
as is classically done with the film adaptations, it only does a certain part of the book. The most important thing to say about it is that the film works best with its when it has the younger Heathcliff and Cathy. We also get older Heathcliff and Cathy. I have to say, for me, those sections don't work quite so well. It's clear that in Andrea Arnold's version, the source of the story, the passion of the story, the real feeling of the story is in those two characters in their youth, because that's the point at which all the really sort of explosive, melodramatic, earthy, muscular, sinewy, fleshy stuff is going on. It's a very, very bold adaptation, because it clearly turns its back utterly on previous screen versions of this story. It gets back to the essential roots of the story, and that means that it's not an entirely easy watch. It is a long film, and it's certainly a film at which, as the title suggests, you feel like by the end of it you have been well weathered, but you also feel like you've seen something that looks like it has some kind of fundamental primal truth to it. I think the performances were really extraordinary. I think the cinematography is really effective, in as much as it does that stuff about taking you pretty much as close to the centre of the relationship as you could sensibly get in the visual medium. You do get a real sense of the atmosphere, of the buildings, of the earth, of the landscape, and of the fact that that's where this all comes from.
Why is it a 15?
Well, because I haven't looked at the BBFC website, but I'll check it out. But I mean, I
imagine you've seen the movie.
Yes, I have. I'm just trying to think why exactly it would be. Off the top of my head, I can't go to the BBFC website. They'll tell you why it's 15. It is important to say, however, it's not without flaws. I did feel that in its more in the sections in which the characters have grown up, it didn't quite work as well. Partly because I think it doesn't perfectly make the jump between the original actors playing the characters and the older actors playing the characters. That is not in any way to complain about the performances themselves. It's just a structural break which is made, which I think it is very difficult to pull off. It's got also a very interesting soundtrack. I mean, the sound, it's not, most movies will be accompanied by sort of huge scores and sweeping music. This is not the case with this. What you have is a very sort of strange, almost expressionist soundtrack. And I was drawn into it. I do think it's a bold adaptation. As I came out of it, I wasn't sure that I loved it, but having lived with it now for a few months, I think it's really admirable and pretty damn good.